If I give you a game that has 2D graphics, Metroidvania, Souls-like gameplay, and is quite difficult, you'll probably tell me it's Hollow Knight. It's probably going to be Hollow Knight. But throw some religious context in there, give it an age rating of M, and throw some bloody visceral gameplay out, well then, we get Blasphemous. That's right, today we look at the sacred meets the profane, where the penance is paid in blood and redemption is a twisted and unforgiving path. This is the hauntingly beautiful world of Blasphemous. Is this macabre masterpiece worth your playtime, or is the journey and the namesake itself a complete blasphemy? Well, before we go any further, welcome to Stay Tuned on Gaming. I'm your host Damon, where we get to talk about video games for as long as I want. And today I'm going to be looking at the Spanish-inspired, religiously bloody Blasphemous. But before that, like and subscribe, share the video, and comment down below. Did you enjoy Blasphemous? Also, you should head over to my gaming channel, Gaming on the Backlog, to see me experience this game firsthand. Let's get into the story of Blasphemous. Blasphemous' story is an ambiguous one, complex, and even left up to the player to interpret. But I'm going to try to give you a synopsis without really spoiling anything. Plus, you should know I didn't really understand what was going on in this game, because there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the story. And afterwards, when I did finally go through a lot of the items and of course look up lore videos, the story is actually pretty interesting. So here's the synopsis. The game is set in the fictional region of Custodia, which is a land ruled by the Miracle, a powerful and mysterious force. But unlike other miracles where you pray to it and give your life in servitude of it, this one is more about pain and suffering, maybe suffering on yourself and even killing yourself. This is the land of Custodia, which has been touched by this miracle. You play as the penitent one, a silent knight who has been tasked with finding the cradle of affliction, a secret relic that is said to hold the key to the miracle's power. This will take the penitent's one journey throughout different locations, each with its own unique challenges and enemies. He must face off against powerful bosses, solve puzzles, and explore the dark and twisted world of Custodia. Along the way, he'll learn more about the land, the miracle, and meet interesting characters, all to end the reign of the miracle. And this is kind of how the story plays out. You've been tasked with something, you need to kill a couple of people, and eventually make your way to the top to figure out how this happened to the miracle. And there's a lot of themes that go on to this game that I really like, of faith, of guilt, of redemption, even showing the extremes of faith, how people give into it blindly without question, and going so far even to killing themselves or other people just so that they can gain what part of this miracle is. The miracle is a very interesting thing in this game. You don't really know what it really is. Is it an unseen force? Is it somebody at the high worlds? It's just something that's there. But even though the story might not be the most amazing thing when it comes to trying to figure it out, it's told through item descriptions, environmental storytelling, and even your own observations. That is basically how this game tells its story. It's very Souls-like. Every item has a lore button to it, and you can find what is it about, giving you a story of some character or something. I think the most lore I got was from the bones you can collect in the game, which is this collectible you can find, and that gives you a lot of lore of people. There is a lot of characters in this game, and a lot of characters that is spoken about in this game. I actually really liked a lot of the characters you meet. I also liked a lot of the character stories and poems and songs you would read in the game. They were all really, really cool, and I really liked a lot of them. What I didn't like is how this game and its characters is sometimes presented, because you can lock yourself out of certain things. They give you a path of what you must go down, and you can follow that path to the letter, but there's so much more to the game. But you can also lock yourself out. Just like in Souls games, there are many side quests in the game, and each character has some side quests that you have to do. The problem is, you can lock yourself out of these side quests by not doing it right, missing an item, or even not getting the correct pathing to meet this character at this time. I missed an entire character because I didn't know that there was a soft lock timer on the game. Now, I love this story, and I love how it portrays both the beauty and the evil at the same time, and this really does work. Your character is very silent. He's basically non-talkative. He's a silent character, but the characters you meet are very interesting. Now, I thought I actually would understand a lot of the story because it's a very religious story, but it doesn't really do a lot of Christianity. It's more in the Spanish realm of religion and folklore. So I didn't really get a lot of the characters' names, a lot of the places' names. Some of them were really tough to present to name because I was like, I don't really know how to say this, even though they tell you the character's name. But overall, this is a great story that tells a lot of different parts. And once I did come to the end of the game, I understood mostly about what was going on. Note, you will have to do a lot of reading. Overall, Blasphemous story is an A+. Now, the game also shines in the graphics department. Graphics in this game, it's a 2D pixel art game, and sometimes that could either help the game or hinder the game. In this case, it really helped the game. Blasphemous is bloody, it's visceral, it's disgusting and beautiful all at the same time. Every location is beautifully mapped out and different from the other. Every enemy is completely different from another and looks very weird, and bosses just take up a whole another section of macabre and beautiful and quite shocking at the same time. From skulls to people using their own chains to kill you, to giant blind babies that have a tentacle that attacks you. Everything about Blasphemous is crazy, but it's also very, very memorable. I love the designs of your own character, the penitent one with this cone shape and this thorns around it. It's very memorable. The designs of the enemies, again, are weird and just unbelievable, but you can clearly tell when an enemy is going to kill you and how is he going to kill you. What makes it great is that you are going to visit these locations and fight these enemies over and over again as you meet and go back and revisit these areas, and it never gets boring. Sometimes I just couldn't believe at some of the beautiful pixel art this game really has to offer. And to mention that it's bloody, it's really bloody. There are some amazing bloody sequences and cuts and execution moves that all look really, really good. I love this game's graphics. It's unlike anything else when it comes to some of the visuals and designs for characters that you'll ever see. You might not like pixel art too much, but trust me when I say you will remember some of the things you see in this game. Every single time I saw a new enemy, I was like, what the hell is that? A new boss was just sometimes I was in awe of what I was looking before I could even hit the boss because I wanted to see what it is. Animations are crisp, clean, and they all play out really, really well. You can clearly tell what's going to happen, which attack is coming next, so it always allows you to understand how this boss will play, how this enemy will play, and it just makes it so much fun. I couldn't tell you how many pictures I just took of the backgrounds of me just standing there because I really loved a lot of it. It's very simple, very clean, and works really, really well. The graphics in this game is A+ when it comes to my thing. And I would tell you, get whatever you can and play this game just for its graphics. It's really, really good. Now, let's get on to gameplay. There's a lot going on with Blasphemous. It's a platformer, a Metroidvania, a hack and slash, and even having you to solve puzzles. That is a lot all in one bundle. So let's get down to combat. Combat is actually pretty much the most simple thing in this game. It's a normal 3 combo string with you having the ability to parry and dodge through enemies or even attacks that can hit you from oncoming attacks. But the most important thing here is parrying. Parrying is basically the block in this game, and if you time it right, you can nullify any damage. You can also stun some enemies and have an extra hit in them or a much more powerful attack. This means that you're always trying to be on the front foot of the game, though even though contact can damage you, you're always trying to be near your enemy, as you don't really have any other attack that can really damage enemies from afar. Your sword, the Mia Cooper, is your main weapon, and your only weapon in this game. You get a little bit of something else, but your own weapon in this game. And you'll be using this as well as a variety of other things to help flesh out this combat. First up, there's rosary beads. Now, these are basically items you can find throughout the world, and they act as buffs. You can equip up to 8, though you start with 2, and they each can be very, very powerful. Some can increase the dodge attack you get much later, slow the cooldown of the dodge, increase defense or strength or health, fervor, various things like that. It's really, really good. The Mia Cooper itself also can have hearts attached to it as well. These are more buffs that you can put in the game, but they mostly have some sort of penalty that you have to equip to it, such as if you want to use the defense attack, you're going to have less health. It's a kind of a trade-off. To be fair, I hardly ever use some of these hearts. I found their buffs not enough for the penalty I got on them, which kind of sucks. Prayers are the most ultimate move you can get in the game. You see, there's a blue bar called Fervor. Think of it as your MP. And whenever you use these prayers, you take up MP. You take up this Fervor, and the prayers are actually really, really good. Some of them are very useful in fighting, such as the ability to have bolts of lightning hit an ally, or shoot a beam straight out, or shoot a beam from the sky. These are going to be the things you use most to gain the edge in some of your combat. Next up, you have the ability to upgrade your Mia Cooper. This is actually the most important thing. Whenever you kill an enemy, you gain Tears of Atonement. Think of it as souls in this game. And whenever you get these Tears of Atonement, you can use it to buy stuff or upgrade your sword. And upgrading your sword is actually pretty cool because you can get like ranged attacks, a dodge attack, you can even get a downward and a charge attack. This just helps flesh out the combat a lot more. But to be fair, even with all of these things, and I'm probably missing the relics as well, which mostly just act as exploration items to help you explore more, it doesn't really get out of that feeling one note type of combat. I always felt the combat was just very, very samey. It never really evolved. I would stick with what I have and hardly ever change, except for the rosary beads. I did like that you could change the rosary beads whenever you want. You didn't have to get to a parry-do to change them. You could do it whenever you want. It's really only the hearts and a couple of things you have to get to the parry-do for. Then you have to say that this game is very Souls-like, because when you die, you leave behind a guild fragment and wind up at a parry-do. Now, the parry-do is basically like a bonfire or a bench, and if you have any recollection of the other two games, you can, if you heal, not only do you get back your health and maybe your fervor, you also restart the area when it comes to the enemies that you've killed. Now you have to get back to get your guilty fragment because your fervor gets taken out. This time it's not your Tears of Atonement or souls in this matter, this game, but your fervor, which is actually very important because you're going to be using prayers a lot in this game. They really do work in this game. And that's basically the combat. Platforming in this game is pretty okay as well, for some parts of it, as you can hit your sword into the side and then climb up a wall. Only note there's only some locations you can do that. Dodging allows you to get to certain areas, and jumping is also very, very important. Where I didn't like the platforming is in the platforming challenges section. There's a various number of challenges that you have to do in some of the platforming, and they are the worst thing in this game. Seriously, I almost broke playing those platforming challenges. They were difficult, annoying, and nearly broke me. I spent nearly probably 4 hours on one platforming challenge. I hated it. I hated that one so much. And while this game is a Metroidvania, it doesn't really feel like a true Metroidvania. I've played many Metroidvanias, and I would feel the game that I feel this game is closest to, Hollow Knight, feels way more Metroidvania than what this game feels Metroidvania. Granted, there are things you can't get because you don't have this ability or you don't have this thing, but throughout the most of the game, you can get through it pretty easy. The only things that really stop you is certain areas and mostly just other side content or collectibles that you need to get. Speaking of collectibles, there are quite a lot of collectibles. Of course, you have your rosary bead items, your relics, and all of these items that you can get, but you also have bones. Now, bones are the biggest collectible next to something else, but they are mostly like lore stuff and for another side quest that you do. And lastly, there are these babies that I like to call them, or guardian angels I think they're called, that you have to collect throughout the world. There's 38 of them in total, and they're pretty okay to collect. They're actually pretty fun to collect because you see them all around the world and you're like, oh, I have to see there. Now the map is huge, first starting off very small and you having to explore and figure out where everything is. So you'll be doing a lot of running back and running forth in this game. But what's great is that the game never feels like it's taking forever. You would always know which direction to go, which shortcut you opened up, and how to get from one place to another. Each area in the game is named, and it always feels like this area is going to be a big section for you, because they do something different. You won't find a parry-do or in every section of the game. You won't find one right around the corner. Usually, there's only really 2 parry-dos in every section, with you being able to unlock a fast travel much later. You get to find these rooms all over the place. When it comes to the game's use of this, I think it's actually pretty cool because they usually only have one either at the start of the area and at just before the boss, or around the end of the end of the era or the beginning of a new one. So you're mostly going to be dying a lot, and when you die, you're back forth to jumping through the entire area again and beating the same enemies. It presents a different type of challenge than other games where a lot of it is difficulty, but I still like this challenge quite a bit. I hate the platforming challenge. Bosses are really, really cool, and enemies are just as cool as well. Each enemy is unique and different, having something else that you have to do. What's great is their designs, and because of their designs, you easily know the enemy's strength, weakness, and how good the other one is. The same with the bosses. Each boss is fantastic, different, has different challenges, and you'll know which one took you a long time to do and which one didn't. The Child Village Lady, for some reason, took me forever to beat. But I loved all of the bosses. Now, this game has been told that it's very, very difficult, and I would say it's not really that difficult. Don't get me wrong, there are difficult areas, difficult platforming challenges, I hated them, and even some difficult puzzles that mostly require you just to look and think outside the box. Granted, I did get most of the challenges, most of these puzzles, but when it comes to the actual big difficulty, Blasphemous wasn't that difficult. The New Game Plus mode that you get, I think, is very difficult. but it's not super difficult where I think it would turn you off. I didn't really like a lot of the Souls games because they got difficult for no reason. Yeah, I kind of really liked this game's difficulty. I felt that the player was always not over leveled or even under leveled. It was always kind of just on the same track as the enemies, and I think that works really well for this game. Now, there's plenty of secrets in this game. So many secrets. If you think this is a wall that's a fake wall, hit it, because it probably is. Many secret areas, many secret places. But I do have another complaint with it, is that you can't really complete everything in this game in one run. Because you get locked out of certain things, like I said in the story section, the same thing can happen both in gameplay. You can be locked out of certain sections or puzzles just because you don't have this item or this thing or something else. There's even an entire, you gotta fight these unique bosses for the DLC of this game, but you can only play them in a New Game Plus. And New Game Plus isn't even really New Game Plus mode. It's kind of a mixture of New Game Plus where you keep all the items you get, but your health and everything else restarts, which I felt was a bit of a, I didn't really like that as much. And then you get to fight these brand new bosses, which are okay and also really difficult, but I felt like you could have just kept that in the game. Now, the game has multiple endings, A, B, and C, which is the true ending. I kind of got the bad ending your first time, but you can get the C ending. I will admit I had to look this up because I didn't know that you could actually get this actually true ending. This was added much later in the DLC, and I think all the DLC was fine except for the platforming challenges, but everything else in this game really works. While I do feel some of the gameplay is one note when it comes to combat, and the Metroidvania isn't really Metroidvania, everything about the combat is fantastic and the gameplay is fantastic. Whenever I put down Blasphemous for a break or just because I needed to sleep, I immediately sat down and said, I want to play more Blasphemous, and that shows you how good this gameplay is. Blasphemous is, many people would say, a masterpiece, and I agree with them. It's really good. I had this game on my radar for a long time, and I have to say, it was fantastic. I loved the story. I love the gameplay, I love the graphics, I love the music, I love the voice acting. All of it is really good. Blasphemous is an A+ and a must play from me. You can find Blasphemous basically everywhere, even on the Nintendo Switch. I know its sequel just came out, but I recommend you to play this one first, then play that one. I don't know if they even connected story-wise. I haven't looked at anything on the sequel, but I definitely didn't want to go into the sequel without playing this game. I think everyone should play it. If you're turned off by the difficulty of this game, it's really not that difficult. If you've played Hollow Knight and beat that, it's gonna be exactly the same for you in my opinion. It's nothing as difficult as, I would say, Dark Souls or anything of that nature. It's pretty good with its difficulty. And if you're turned off by some of the blood and stuff and a lot of the nudity and some of the things, I say still go for it because it's really just so goddamn memorable. I will remember Blasphemous for a very long time. I will definitely go back and play it again. I did start a little bit of a New Game Plus, but I didn't get that far. I got busy, so I'll definitely do that. It only sucks that platinuming this game is quite difficult in my opinion. You have to do at least 2 runs, which I think kind of sucks because there's a lot of things that, again, like I said, locks you out, which does suck. But I think platforming this is gonna be kind of annoying to do, but it is possible. I've seen people do it. Overall, play it, pick it up, find it. If you need to get any subscription service to do it, play this game. It is worth your time. And that's the video, guys. That's the video on Blasphemous. I had a great time with this game. I'll definitely tell everyone to play it. I definitely will tell everyone to play it. Took a while for me to get this video out. I've just been lazing about for this past couple of weeks. It's kind of just hit me. I've been in this weird state of doing something and not doing something. But I'm glad I finally got this video out. Like I said, I do have a gaming channel, Gaming on the Backlog. It's very small, but you can see me play Blasphemous, all of it firsthand in the game there. You can see all of its 21 parts. You can see all my ups and downs in that game. Of course, do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment, all those things in this video. And also check out my other videos. Got a great video on Call of Juarez Gunslinger. I think everyone should play that Western epic masterpiece. And another one on EA's Lost in Random, a really good indie game that many of you might have missed. I'll check you guys in the next game.